Doug McIntyre, I got to turn to you first. The president says we just cannot have anything but his comprehensive immigration reform. He's got to convince Americans of that fact.
Well, it's a comprehensive con job is what it is. I mean, and it has been all along. It's real simple, Lou. The president has no credibility, and the Senate has no credibility. You go back to August 4th, 1977, when President James Earl Carter, of all people, on a white paper on immigration, predicted everything that would happen in the intervening years that has happened. And they're still trying to sell us this bill of goods, and we're simply not buying it. We want the government to prove that we can have reasonable security of our borders, ports and harbors, northern southern border, and once they demonstrate that, then we'll be happy to have a discussion on the legitimate needs of industry and a pathway to citizenship. But this, really what this is, they're trying to legislate Jaime Crow laws, where there'll be a legalized form of Jim Crow for the 21st century. It's outrageous.
Or you were shaking your head and nodding at
well,
the same
both.
time.
I like the Jaime Crow thing. He's right. I mean, what this was an attempt to sort of trade contract indentured workers that the corporations want, and they're going to come back for that, for an agreement to criminalize families, separate families, and militarize our border even more. Is it a sort of undermining of human rights and workers' rights for everybody? Absolutely. I'm glad it's gone. And I'm angry at the spin that tells us that this bill would have been better than nothing. I think nothing's better than this bill.
Well, it's pretty disgusting, but that's exactly what Senator Edward Kennedy and President George W. Bush have said to us, and they did so, Warren, with straight faces. Can you imagine?
Well, this is nothing more than Tony Soprano. I mean, President Bush told us in Europe, when he was in Europe, he said, hey, I'll see you at the signing of the immigration bill. This is a joke, Lou. This is absolutely ludicrous, what's going on in America today. And when you think about this, I mean, really, when you think about it, why is one certain group getting individual privileges that others aren't getting? The Italians aren't coming here like this. The Polish aren't. The Irish aren't. The Haitians, oh, my God, they can't even get over here. We're supposed to just open our doors for anybody who's Hispanic? This is ridiculous.
Well, the point is we're supposed to have labor law that applies equally to everybody. We're supposed to have an equal legal system, not some special system for certain class of workers. We're supposed to have employers that have to get workers by fiddling with wages and benefits and an education system that will provide us the workforce we need. This is a way to avoid all of that, and it doesn't just do harm to the immigrants. It does harm to all of us.
Hey, Laura, you know what? My audience is very upset about this because it's destroying the middle class. They're taking construction jobs. They're taking trucking jobs.
Let's force those contractors to increase wages. It'd be good for the middle class instead of bringing this indentured class of workers who are going to drop the wage floor. That's what they're about.
Well, this was the prime directive. You have to remember that when the corporatists who saw George W. Bush win the second term as governor of Texas went to him and said, how would you like to be president? They asked him to do two things: cut taxes and get us cheap labor to make the free trade of the Americas agreement work and NAFTA and GATT work by lowering the standard of wages for the working class in this country to level out that speed bump at the Rio Grande. And whatever else he wanted to do, they didn't care about. Terry Schiavo, knock yourselves out on stuff like that. But this is a full frontal assault on the sovereignty of America.
That's right.
It has to be killed if the country is to survive.
It's not just the sovereignty, it's the human rights. It's the Constitution of America.
Well, frankly, it's all of the above.
We the people.
By the way, those human rights don't exist if this nation doesn't have sovereignty.
Exactly.
Because it is this nation that makes those human rights possible for an entire
and you know, I want to put two.
Let me say something.
I want to put two things out here, guys. I want to put two things out here first. First thing I want to put out here is, look, they're estimating 12 million. I think it's more like 30 million. And I'm guaranteeing you this. If this amnesty, because that's what it is, amnesty, if it's allowed, by 2025, your kids, my grandkids, and everybody else is going to have to learn how to speak Spanish. And the facts of it is, and this isn't to be racist at all, but the fact of it is this: Americans are having kids at 2.5 kids.
Well, Warren, I got some good
They're
news
having
for you.
five kids a household.
It would be good.
I've got some good news for you, Warren. My kids, 4 of them, they all speak in various ability, but mostly very well Spanish. So I'm not worried about that. But what I am worried about is people in this government don't even know what they're talking about. They don't know whether it's 12 million or 20 million or whatever the number may be.
That's right, Lou.
They have no idea of the fiscal impact of the legislation they're putting out there. But does it strike anyone else as ironic that Senator Ted Kennedy, who was one of the principal architects of the 65 immigration law, we're paying for the consequences now, which was we put aside under a civil rights initiative by President Kennedy, national origin quotas because some deemed that to be racist. Those national origin quotas have been brought back by the Hispanic socio-ethnic centric groups. Today, the largest number of people coming into this country are from Mexico. They are from Central America, and they are the ones who have rolled it back to their benefit and to their advantage, those national origins. They are flouting the intent of the 1965 immigration bill.
It's like 53% over 47%, and sometimes you get the impression from the debate that there were no other immigrants except for, you know, Latino and Hispanic immigrants. But, you know, Democrats are divided on this stuff, and that's good debate. I think this debate's going to come back. We need to have
I think it's a lousy debate, Doug. You know why? I don't hear a debate. No one's talking about the facts.
Exactly.
Well, that's right.
Exactly.
I mean, this is the problem. It just takes you down into cul-de-sacs of rhetorical gymnastics, like who's a bigger racist and this one's
Exactly.
xenophobic and that's uber nationalism.
Well, this is all about votes. It's all about votes. It's all about
nobody talks about in the debate is that nations have immigration policy for the benefit of the nation, not for the benefit of the immigrant. We want the immigrants to do well because it makes the nation stronger. But nations have policies on who they let in for the benefit of the greater good of society. Right. And once again, it's all about individuals and not about the greater good.
I think the debate here with respect to the greater good is just beginning. It's a conversation about workers' rights. We need to have one class of workers who are equal in their protection under the law, who abide by the law, who are treated as equal citizens by employers and by the corporations.
Hey, you know,
that's a big struggle, big conversation we've had in this country before about civil rights, and we've got to have it again.
The biggest problem here to me, I'm saying this not only as a talk show host, I'm also an attorney. I'm a gatekeeper. I protect rights all the time. My record speaks for itself. But the biggest problem to me that nobody wants to come out and say, this is all about votes. The Democrats want to seem like they're the heroes because they want to get the votes if they're allowed amnesty. George Bush is doing the same thing. And this is just all about getting political position for a new group of
Warren,
voters.
I disagree to this at this extent. I believe that for the Democrats, it's about votes, but for the Republicans, I think that's a dodge. I think for the Republicans, it's about the corporatist multinational agenda, about leveling out the income disparity between Central America and North America.
That plays into it, David. That plays into it, but I guarantee you it is about votes, too. When you look at what's going on
Flanders gets the last word here.
Immigrants come to this country with a dream of what this country really is. It's about making this country true to that dream, which allows possibility and equal rights and constitutional protections for all.
You mean legal immigrants, right?
I do.
I thought so. All right. Laura Flanders, good to have you here. Warren, good to have you. Doug, as always, appreciate it. Thank you all three.